their children. It's about the trader being able to replenish his stock. But his replacement cost is now 3-4 times what it used to be. So my own is cautious optimism so that we don't mistake the submissions of experts for the crisis of the woman who is trying to make a soup for her husband, a pot of soup for her husband.
They also believe that this might have an impact in terms of spending patterns. That when people were told that Nigeria was in a recession, what a lot of people will most likely be doing, and also with inflation really high, is trying to hoard their money, save their money. But now that, you know, there is that general perception that, oh, we're out of the woods. I mean, looks like there's light at the end of this tunnel, and we're seeing it. You know, maybe people will be more willing to spend. Do you think that it will have that effect at all?
People, maybe the experts will be more willing to spend, not me. I have children to pay their fees. All costs are going up. If your child is outside the country like mine, you're still buying money, not from the official quarters. If you have to feed a large family, your costs are up. If transport fare is going up, you're spending more. So when you say, oh, people, with this announcement of growth, people will be a bit more optimistic and begin to spend, let me ask you personally, Mokbe. Are you going to begin to spend now on what you don't need or money you don't have? I like economic analysis. It's wonderful. But I always would like to walk out of the economic classroom to look into the real world. People are going to spend. There will be reflation of the economy. Oil has added. Oil is one of the, variables used to confirm that we are in growth. Yeah, but what's the fate of oil? What are we doing? You're talking about agriculture. The world is talking biofuel. So let's move away from the parameters we used to celebrate growth in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and early 2000s and get into the 21st century. That's not the kind of growth, a forward-looking economy we're talking about in a world that's trying to write off oil. So I'm all excited about the growth, provided, as far as I'm concerned, we keep it within the domain of experts and their analysis.
Now, people say that the world is trying to write off oil, but people still say that there is a large role for oil to play. I mean, that argument has been on for a while, especially if you look at the fact that a lot of cars are coming out as hybrid, and then you also have the haulage business, which, you know, they say that it's going to be highly improbable for you to have batteries powering these trucks, which, you know, take goods around the world. So it would seem that we still need to be looking at our oil sector.
I agree completely. For a simple reason. Even today, people still look at coal. So I'm not writing off oil. On the contrary, let them produce all the electric cars they want. Oil is going to be relevant going forward, continuously to some degree. So I'm not being pessimistic. I'm saying let's look where the world is looking, but let's not pretend that oil has disappeared. No. Now, over and above all of that, I'm also saying that oil is income that gets to the federal government in our name, and which is shared among the states, and which is deployed for salaries and for capital projects. And I ask, what is it that happens to the average Nigerian when his state and his local government gets allocation from the federal government? Usually nothing, unfortunately. That is the issue. So while that oil is celebrated as an index of growth, correctly so, in any analysis, you move this oil, convert it from oil to income, convert it from oil to state allocation, convert it from state allocation to impact on the citizen in the name of whom it's been shared. Nothing happens.
You hear, I don't know if you heard from the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, saying that this is evidence that this government is working, that they're doing their best, and the evidence is beginning to show in growth rate. Do you agree with him?
No, I don't agree with him. Femi is actually being unfair to this government by his statement. The government didn't create the problems. So when you say it's evidence, working from where? When you came in, what was the value of the Naira? It was below 200. It rose to 500 and now it's at 360, 380. So Femi should move the conversation away from the parameters that make the government look bad. They inherited a terrible economy. Before the election, there was a meeting to decide what to do about salaries in July in case PDP won. You see, these people who speak for government should also get their data and not always be so defensive.
Now, if you say that, you know, he's not being fair, I mean...
To himself
I don't
and his boss.
I don't mean to be personal now. I'm looking at what he said in the light of what has happened. You acknowledge that the economy was in a bad shape.
Very bad shape.
As it were.
Yep.
And the government will not just fold its arms and say, well, it's in a bad shape, there's nothing we can do. Economy runs itself. It doesn't. Government must be able to, you know, through fiscal and monetary policies, ensure that, you know, some growth is recorded. Is this any sign? Would you agree that this is some sign that in this respect, government's efforts through monetary and fiscal, whatever it is you're doing, is beginning to show some fruit?
It's beginning to show, but you see, the government wasn't what it inherited before starting to struggle to make any improvements. Let's not overlook that fact. The essential point I'm making with respect to the government is that while Femi is celebrating this, which is good, let him contextualize the achievements of his boss properly. The man came in determined to change Nigeria. He's surrounded by people who consider him an inconvenience. The bulk of people around him are thoroughly irritated about his anti-corruption thing. You ought to have a team of convinced persons at work. You don't have that.
What gives you that impression? They're thoroughly irritated by anti-corruption war.
A lot of things give me that impression.
You just said that.
Yes. Conversations, meetings, conferences, confidential discussions, even with people around the places that should be making things happen. So the impression you get is that of limited consultation and the rest of it. So when you say it's evidence that government is working, no. Give us